Hello, namaste. Thank you for tuning into Quantum Investing channel. This is your host, Sarat Chalamcharla. Today, we are going to talk to a guest. Before I introduce him, I would ask you to like my video, share, and also subscribe to my channel. This is really important for this YouTube algorithm to bring my videos up. So the guest we are going to talk, he is a very simple man. He is very experienced. Throughout his life, he has done into construction, managing people. But on the side hustle, he has been in real estate for around 27 years. So for the last few years, he is completely into fix and flip, buy and hold. So when I asked him, how can I introduce you? He said he wants to help others in real estate and make them success. And in this discussion, we have talked about many other things other than real estate, about wealth and health and life. I would ask you to watch this video completely and give your feedback. With that, I would like to introduce Donald Kellogg. Hello, Don. How are you doing?
Excellent. How are you doing this evening?
Good, good. Thank you for coming on the show, Don.
Glad to do it. Glad to do it.
So can you tell us yourself, where you have started and what all you have been doing in the real estate, please?
So my real estate started probably 27 years ago. And so just like anybody at that age, coming up on 30, I thought, I want to be a real estate investor. And then I failed to take real, true, hardcore action. So I like in 1993, I worked two jobs, worked 7 days a week for the entire year, and saved money. And then I found this house for sale by owner on 1.5 acres in Medford, Oregon. And I bought my second house. And so I used some equity from my first house that I bought when I was 22. And then I used some savings that I have. And I went and got a loan, and I bought this house from this guy because I saw his sign and it said for sale by owner. And it's kind of a funny story. It was two houses in Southern Oregon. They had an old military called Camp White. It's in White City, Oregon. And so they'd put two 750 square foot buildings together and moved it from Camp White, which is like 20 miles away, to this property, and they'd put it on there. And so I bought that, and it was garbage, but I bought it and I lived in it, and I fixed it up, I painted it, I roofed it, I did everything. And since I already had another house, I turned my first house into a rental at that time. So that's been 25, 26 years ago. So I wanted the 1.5 acres. I wanted, I had a son. I wanted him to be able to have a horse and a goat and chickens and all that, and then I my career path ended up taking me from Southern Oregon to Portland with another big grocery company, and then that transfers into another grocery company a few years later. And so as I moved from location to location, I bought a house every time, but I never sold the one in the prior location.
Okay.
And so
That's how you build up, right? So
right. So I just was like, okay, well, I don't have a house, but I save up some money, and I'd be like, my company was kind enough to help with the relocation, and so then I'd buy another house, or I'd build a house. I built my own house a couple different times.
Nice.
And so when I moved to Portland in 2000, right in 1999, 2000, a buddy and I in Southern Oregon started a construction company. He was a general contractor, and he had a very hard time closing a property. So he wasn't good with the real estate agent. He wasn't good with the buyer. And so we formed an LLC in 2000, from 2000 to 2008, 8 years, which was the high. Everything was going crazy. We built many, many homes in Southern Oregon, Central Oregon, and Northern Oregon. And then in 2008, I moved to California, and we folded that up because the economy had tanked, obviously. And, so we had some money, and I ended up getting another rental out of the deal. He took the cash and I took the rental property because I knew down the road the rental was going to be worth more money. And I didn't want the money at the time. And so I ended up working for corporate America. And so until about 3.5 or 4 years ago, I always had about 6 properties, the one I lived in plus 5, or the one I lived in plus 6.
Nice.
Uh,
Where in California? You said California, right?
It was in Modesto, California. So that was about an hour, 90 minutes from San Francisco about 70 miles below Sacramento.
Got it.
And I worked for a company called Winco Foods, which is a grocery chain.
Yes.
So I moved, and I was a liaison between the general contractors and the company. So I would go in, like here on 75th and Buckeye. I came in 2013. All it was grass, and watched them build and help design and $130 million project.
Those warehouses or the stores itself?
No, the big warehouses. The warehouses are 1 million square feet. So store is typically 90,000 square feet. So in a warehouse, I could put 10 grocery stores in the warehouse.
Wow.
And so I did that in Boise, Idaho, 750,000 square foot building. It was about a $120,000 project. And then when it was done, I was the general manager, hired the staff of 20, 25. And then we hired the 300 to 400 employees, and then we got it up and operational.
Great.
So as you move from location to location, you got to learn what worked better, the flow of the warehouse, how the racking, what kind of equipment, how did you want to brand the management team to be transparent with employees so it wasn't a union facility, and so then you would negotiate a contract with employees. And so, I usually had 350 or 450 employees until actually 2 years ago, May of 2018, I retired when I was 55.
That's good.
So that's kind of like in a nutshell.
So since then, you have completely transformed yourself into real estate investing, or how is the journey there?
So prior to 2018, when I retired, I knew I was going to retire because I had set a goal when I was 30. I said, hey, I want to retire when I'm 55. Whether it was real estate or whether it was working for corporate America, and I ended up going down the corporate America road. And then real estate was kind of like my side hustle, and I managed the properties even though I was in different states.
Nothing new, right? Like, everything there, but you have to do it for yourself, I guess, right?
Right. Yeah, you had to do the property management. You had to hire the roofer. If I was in Boise, Idaho, I was hiring somebody for a California property. If I was in California, I was hiring somebody from Oregon property. And so,
you know how it works to do it remotely as well, right? How to manage and everything.
Right. Right. So in 2010, I started. I was in Boise, Idaho, and my boss, my vice president. So in Winco Foods, I answered to a vice president. He answered to the CEO of the company of about 18,000. So it's real thin. They don't have a lot of overhead.
Nice.
And so in 2010, or 2009, he said, hey, Don, we're going to take you to Boise. You're going to be the general manager. We've already got this thing. They had some of the concrete walls up. So I went in there, and he goes, I'm going to ask you one thing, though. You need to have someone manage your property. And I said, okay. I didn't want to do it, but I did it, and it worked. So I hired companies in Oregon and California to manage the properties. And it actually went all right. I always think of, oh my God, I could go over there and paint those 3 bedrooms this weekend, and I could do it for $120. And, instead I'm paying somebody $800 or $1,000 or $1,500, and you get to write it off. And I actually did my own taxes. I did my own taxes by hand until 2 years ago. So I understood the concept of depreciation and what you could write off and what you couldn't write off. And on 2 different occasions, I just, paid a legal team $300 to $400 and said, hey, here's what I'm doing. Am I missing anything? And they always said, no, you're fine. So why would I pay them $2,000 or $3,000 to do my taxes? And then since I've retired, Last year was the first year I had someone do my taxes, and this year.
How was it? Is it a lot of difference? Do you think you should have done it earlier, or are you okay?
I made a couple errors on depreciation early on, but it was because I had broke a salary cap barrier where I couldn't claim. I had a cap on what I could claim, and so when it came time to sell a property, I owed a couple $1,000s in taxes that I probably, if I'd done something a little bit different 7 or 8 years ago, instead of carrying it over, it cost me a couple grand in taxes. And so,
Right.
it wasn't perfect, but it was overall relatively good. And it was, and I learned.
That's good. That's on the same note. So, how is it important? So, let's say there's a new investor, right? So, do they have to do it through an LLC or establish a company, or do it by themselves? Like, what is the main difference? What do you say?
My opinion is based off of what we've learned over the last year or 18 months and personal experience. If you're just going to flip one property a year or two properties a year, or you're just going to buy one rental, or you're going to house hack a property, I don't believe you need an LLC. And I think if you have a good legal team, do you need an LLC and do you need a business? Yes. Once you can show that that business is making north of 40, 50, 60,000,
Hmm.
because otherwise it's just a Schedule C on your taxes. So like I have rental property right now, I 1031 day, that property I told you about, I 1031 that last year in June. So it had about $300 a month positive cash flow. I sold it, took the equity, bought a fourplex in Sunny Slope, turned the $300 positive cash flow into about $1,380 a month positive cash flow. And when I did the 1031 exchange, I knew I needed a legal team at that time because I did not want to make an error and be responsible for the tax repercussions on a couple $100,000.
All right.
I don't think you need an LLC to start.
Got it. Got it.
But I think if you start making 20, 30, 40,000, absolutely, because there's all these write-offs that you can take, but you can still take those write-offs without an LLC.
Yeah.
So you have to make the decision. Everyone wants to go, I got an LLC.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. You got an LLC. What'd you make last year? Well, was it loss or was it a positive? Some businesses you don't make, even in real estate, you may not make money every year.
So
But
when you say you make money through flip or even through rentals, everything together?
so I own rentals. If you own rentals, I believe you can own rentals yourself without an LLC, because I do, and I have for 25 years. But I also think if you're going to buy and hold and you're going to grow your business, like my goal for 2020 was to buy 4 more units. My goal for the next 10 years is to buy 4 units every year. And so we're diligently looking for 4 more doors right now to purchase before the end of this year. And that will give me 8. And then I just want to have 40 at year 9. That's just whether I do it with fix and flip money or whether I do it with self-directed 401k money or whether I do it with my own money. Does that make sense?
Yep. So,
And
sorry, go ahead.
so to answer your question is should you own property in an LLC? It is advantageous if you are going to grow your business. Absolutely. But if you just have one, or you're going to have 2, or you're going to rent out a room to the relative or the tenant, no, I don't believe that there's a benefit, because there's a cost to it, and the cost is coming out of your pocket.
Sure. So what are you doing currently? Is it fix and flip or buy and hold? Or when you say 4, right? When you say 4, is it 4 transactions or you want to hold it?
No, for the goal this year was to flip 4 properties. And so we got one done and it sold in day 1. And then we've got another one in Sun City, and we may end up sitting on that till the fall, till so that we may only get 2. The goal was to flip 4 and buy 4 doors. And when I say buy 4 doors, I have a fourplex. My goal was to buy 4 more doors and hold them. So earlier this year, I tried wholesaling and I wasn't successful at it. And I'm not afraid to say I failed. It wasn't me.
It doesn't work for some people, like, totally fair.
I don't see myself as the person to call the same person 8 different times or 9 different times. And
A lot of time. I totally know. I get it, what you're saying.
I mean, I set it all up. I mean, I spent $20,000 last year and this year to set everything up. So I had cold callers, I'd skip traced, I had the software, I had the contacts, I had 120 warm leads, but I never closed the deal. And so I just said, hey, let's focus on what you do know how to do. So I do know how to fix and flip. I ran a construction company for 8 years. I do know how to buy and hold. I've done it for 25 or 28 years, longer. And so if I focus on those 2, my level of success is going to be higher than if I focus on 3 or 4 or 5.
So what do you think it did not work? Is it just because you're more into fix and flip, or is it, what do you think?
I don't think that I have the personality to call and email and try to get something for less than what someone wants for it. And it doesn't mean that I'm not a grinder or I don't have the knowledge. I've wholesale property. But it's just come to me.
It's you,
and,
it's not working for you. That's it. It's not the process or
right.
Wrong in that. Okay, got it.
If you wholesale, you need a team. And if you're a one-man team, you're either going to spend several $1,000s a month sending mailers, several $1,000s a month cold callers, several $1,000s a month having people door knock, or a combination of all the 3. And you have to be willing to put that money out. And so, I have a large write-off on my P&L for last year, and I have a pretty decent write-off because I quit doing it in March of this year. And there were several times, I went on a few appointments. I just never closed a property. Okay. And so I just chalk it up to as a learn and as a failure. And you're not going to be a success in everything in life. And I'm an optimist, not a pessimist.
No, nothing is failure. Like, that did not work doesn't mean that nothing is not working, right? So
right.
So how do you find deals for the fix and flip?
So for the fix and flip, I have bought on the MLS and I bought off the MLS. A couple of them in the last 3 years I bought off the MLS. One was in McCormick Ranch. One was in Arcadia Light. And then when I went to a networking like I met you at, I went to one 3 years ago by a local, probably the most well-known wholesaler and educator in the Valley. He's been doing it 20 years. I went to a 3-day seminar and I connected with 3 or 4 people. And then I said, hey, I'm going to fix and flip property. How am I going to do it? So I did what a lot of people do. I went down and I created I was still working at the time. I created an LLC and I said, okay, well, I'm going to find wholesalers. So I went to Instagram, I went to Facebook, and I just started talking to people. And so right now I probably have 250 guys locally here in Phoenix that are sending me deals every week.
Wow, that's a big network, Don.
but it took 3 years to get to that. So that's joining the Facebook groups and saying, hey, put me on your buyers list. Put me on your buyers list.
All those work, huh? Like all those legible, and they do send the right ones. I see a lot of people messaging and putting in all that.
So today I had 27 emails. Every single one of them had a wholesale deal on it or multiple wholesale. Just one day.
That's great.
So people go, oh, well, you're not growing your business or you're not fixing flipping 50 houses a year. And so I'm like, okay, cool. I'm still learning. And so when I get those deals, I learn about zip codes. I learn what they're trying to sell the property for. I learn what they think their ARV is. And if I really want something, then I'm going to go in and I'm going to do the due diligence to see what I think it's worth. And so I bought it both. I bought them. I bought them both ways, wholesale, and I
Right.
bought them on the MLS.
Nice. Doing all this within fix and flip. Uh, what's what are the main challenges you see? I mean, as you do more and more, or the very first one you are doing this fix and flip, right?
Right.
What did you learn? What did you see?
What you learn is I had a new construction background, and in new construction, you're pouring new concrete, you're putting in a new foundation, you're putting in new plumbing, you're putting in new electrical, you're putting in new lights. When you're fixing and flipping a property and you're buying that property sight unseen, the plumbing could be shot. You don't know. Now you can look at the cosmetic and you can look at the windows, the doors, the foundation, the cabinets, the roof, the AC, but you really don't know. So if you buy off the MLS, which is difficult to find the deal, you have to act fast, and a lot of times you have to put a large. I think the last one in Arcadia, I put a $20,000 down in earnest. I'd watched the property for 120 days. It was in a trust. It was an original owner. They were in the 430 range, and I'd watched it come down to 399, and I offered them 385, and I said I'll close in 10 days, and they took it and closed it, and we closed it.
That's great.
And so the challenges, back to your question, would be is the unknowns. If you're buying from a wholesaler, you're putting down a non-refundable deposit 99.9% of the time.
Oh,
And you really don't know other than photos, because you're not going to get to do an inspection. You're going to buy it as is. And so you have to be willing to buy it as is. So you have to know what it's worth. And then you have to have a really good idea of what that rehab is going to cost.
I see this, but do you inspect yourself, or you take a contract or somebody, or?
Yeah, I go myself, and then I have a
Okay.
contractor. Yeah.
All right, that's nice. So that's how it is. Buying from wholesalers always, like, there is a non-refundable deposit always.
99% of the time, that's how it is here in the
I see
Phoenix.
that a lot. Yeah.
Now, there are people in our group of investors that you may be able to go look at that property, or you might be able to do an inspection because they have it under contract, and you might be able to use someone in our group. Maybe they don't want a non-refundable deposit, but outside of
That, yeah.
no.
Generally, yeah. No. So, what do you think of the current situation with the COVID and all? I know the stocks and all that, it's so fluctuating. They went down and up and all that, the market, but I did not see that much in the real estate. What from 4 to 6 months from now, what are you seeing? Where all it goes?
So if you look at June statistics, sales, same year-to-year sales were up 11% just for the first 2 weeks of June. The inventory is still 11-year low. The interest rates are lower than they've been in I don't know how long, and the Fed's just locked in prime rate for 3 years. We're gonna have it. So my opinion is, and it's strictly my opinion, is if you're gonna flip homes up to 350 or 375,000, because they're first-time home buyers. They're people that probably both spouses have a job, or 3 people in the family have a job, and they're a first-time home buyer. That being said, it doesn't mean that the $350 to $1 million homes aren't selling, because they absolutely are. They might sit on the market a little bit longer, but someone that can afford $1 million home, they're probably working from home. They're probably on Zoom once a day, like we are right now, and so they're still buying. And then I've actually partnered up with a group out of Scottsdale that I've known for 3 years, and they, during the first 8 weeks of COVID, they sold. Last year they did $14 million. It's a group of about 5, and they fix and flip at the higher end. And during the 8 weeks of COVID, they put under contract $14 million in luxury real estate.
That's when a lot of luxury real estate affected, I guess, right? I think that there was a dip. I'm not sure it's still there, but I saw like a little bit of down.
So in the luxury market, it's kind of like a niche. So these guys that I'm good friends with and I've invested with, a good example is we just bought one in Paradise Valley. It closed February 17 for 1.35 million, 2,800 square feet. We've got the plans through the city. They started the demo for a 7,100 square foot property, and it went under contract 2 weeks ago for $4.1 million. It won't be done until January of 2021, but it's already sold.
So it's sold.
It's sold.
Nice.
Yeah. So for them and their investors, that's awesome because, and obviously I'm an investor. So we know we're going to get our money back because it's already under contract. And the cool thing about going under contract at $4.1 million, that buyer is going to add things to that. So that $4.1 million price tag will probably creep up a little bit over and beyond what's currently there. But the person that gets the house gets to choose the color of the cabinets and the drapes and the flooring and the tubs and everything.
And you must have the earnest money and everything too, I guess, which you may use it for more things.
Right.
So yeah.
Another example is they bought one. I'd watch a wholesaler had one for 1.1 million. Where Lincoln is? Lincoln goes from I-51 to Scottsdale Road.
Okay.
Right below
51 to Scottsdale Road. Okay.
51 to Scottsdale Road, right before 51 makes the curve as you're going north.
Okay.
That's Lincoln that runs all the way across there, and then they're putting in that. What are they putting in at the end of that? The Great Hyatt in Scottsdale or whatever.
Uh-huh.
And so I've watched this wholesale property for 1.1 million, 3,800 square feet, and these guys that I'm partners with, they end up buying that for $1,065,000. They started it. They took that from 3,800 up to 6,800 square feet, and it's got a view of the entire valley. And that went under contract after about 6 months for $4.2 million.
So most of our viewers are like, they want to get into investing,
right?
And they may not spend they may not have enough time to do flips and all that as an investor, right? So let's say they have a $10,000. I know we're talking about millions, but let's start with small, $10,000.
Right.
Where do you think they should start?
I'm not a wholesaler.
Okay.
But a wholesaler is where if you have let's say you got 10 grand,
mm-hmm.
and you put your budget for wholesaling at $5,000, and you go to somebody in our group and say, what's a good zip code to be in? And you spend your $5,000 in mailers, in bandit signs, in people door knocking, in cold calling, and in skip tracing, you're going to get a deal. I don't care who you are, you're going to get it. You are going to get a deal.
Wholesaling.
Yeah.
Right.
And so, you hear wholesale contracts of $3,000. That's one of the smaller wholesale fees I've ever heard of. They're usually $5,000, $7,000, $10,000, $15,000. A gal called me the other day and she goes, Don, you paid cash for this home in Arcadia Light. I've got one block south. And I go, what do you want for it? She said, 385. And I said, how many square feet? She said, 1,215. I said, well, I bought 18 months ago, I bought one for 385 for 1,900 square feet. Why would I pay you 385 for 1,200 square feet? Now, if I was going to value add, it'd be awesome, but it's right by a park. And then it's got duplexes right beside it. And so, it's probably, if you could pick that up for around 325 and you could push the 1,200 square feet to 1900. Is it a $500,000 property? Absolutely. But it's, the two across the street sold for 425 or 450. And so what I'm getting at is if you have a small budget, pick a zip code,
Do wholesaling. Look for house.
work this. And to be honest, I haven't done this. I should be doing this. And so I'm only putting advice out there that I probably should have followed myself. It's like go to 85020 or 85021. You're going to be in North Phoenix. You're going to be up on Hatcher. You're going to be where they're renovating fourplexes, they're renovating duplexes, they're renovating single family homes, and a 1,600 square foot house is going to be $265 all day long. But you're going to find that one person that has owned that home for 20 years and they lost their job due to COVID or whatever, or they just don't want to have people tramping through their house and they know it's not updated, and you're going to get that deal wholesaling. And so, a couple wholesale deals, all of a sudden you turn 5 into 20. Well, now you're like, oh, I got some horsepower. Then network with somebody and say, hey, I got this 20 grand. I want to invest with you.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
That's right. Okay. I think I'm done with my basic questions. And I have these rapid questions. So I want you to answer in one word, one sentence, but I want it fast.
Okay.
Best habit you're proud of?
I go to the gym every single morning.
Stay fit, stay healthy.
Absolutely. Your health is number one. If you don't have your health, what else do you have?
I know.
Nothing.
What are you making it for, right?
Right. I don't know. I don't know if you know this, but in 3 years ago, 2 weeks ago, 3 years ago, 3 years and 2 weeks ago, I actually had a heart attack.
Oh.
And I had been training since 2004, doing cardio, training in the gym, and eating good, and I still had a heart attack. And so investing in your health is my absolute number one priority. Absolutely. Because you can say your family's first. That's awesome. But if you don't have your health, you can't have your family.
Yeah.
You can say wealth is first, but if you don't have your health, what's your wealth? Nothing.
Yeah. So best app or tool you use on daily basis?
Best app. For just looking up stuff, I always use Redfin and Zillow. I mean, there's so many people have so many apps out there now. It's crazy. It just depends on what you want. It depends on what you want to do.
Sure. So best book, blog, or podcast you follow or you recommend, or?
I listen. A person that's inspirational to me, and I don't necessarily listen to his podcast, is Gary Vee.
Gary Vee.
Yeah. I used to be a Grant Cardone fan, and I've actually called into Grant Cardone and actually talked to him live while he was live.
Nice.
Yeah, Gary Vee, even if it's just like a quick TikTok in the morning, you listening to something that he says or a one-liner
on the TikTok,
on Instagram, on Facebook, whatever it is you have out there. His one-liners, whether maybe it's not daily, maybe it's every other day, I always get something from him, even if I don't listen to him on a day or I don't view him or whatever. When I do, he is so grounded. So grounded.
I need to follow him. Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
The first thing you do every day in the morning after you wake up?
I get up and I have a glass of water.
I have the same habit too. I drink warm water, lemon in that. That's it. I've been doing it for the last 5-6 months.
Mine's lemon. So mine is apple cider vinegar.
Right.
Cinnamon. Cinnamon stick. And
put honey. I started putting honey actually.
My wife actually does it before every meal because she thinks it helps with digestive.
Yeah, that's so true.
Yeah.
So name 3 most important things to you.
Well, obviously we already touched on one was my health. My health, my family, and helping others would be my top 3, probably in that order. And so if you have health, the others, if you get up and you have a daily habit like going to the gym or doing 20-minute walk or drinking a water, all that does to me is tell me that you have the motivation to do the other components that you need to do to be successful.
Yes.
But it's just a matter of implementing them. So you're already implementing the one. Why can't you implement 8 or 10 or whatever it is? Or it doesn't have to be 8 or 10. It can be 3.
Nice, nice. So do you have any 5-year, 10-year plan you can share, or any goal? Or
Well, currently we're working on. Currently, I'm working on. I never had a trust or a will, and I only need all I need is signatures this week, and I have done that. And so,
I keep reading a lot on that, hearing a lot on that. Trust or will, that's most important thing. Anything may happen anytime. So
that's right. If something happens to you tomorrow, what happens to your shit?
no, yeah, no.
It goes into probate in the state of Arizona. If you're married and you own some stuff, like I do, there's stuff that my wife and I don't own that I own. It goes to probate. She can't get it.
Yeah,
And
what's the
so,
point? What's the point? Yeah.
So it absolutely makes sense. And so yeah, that's a big one.
Yeah.
But my 10-year goal is, and I put this out on the Renatus group because I think Zach asked it, is to own 40 doors in 10 years.
That's nice.
Whether I fix and flip, no matter what else I do, whether I have it with the self-directed 401k or whatever, if I have 40 doors and I'm 67, that's just a personal goal, and I think it's very achievable.
Sure. So best quote you could think of right now?
Let's go.
Let's go. Okay. What do you get inspired by every day?
That's a tough question. I've actually been, this is going to come as a total surprise to you. I've actually been challenged the last 5 or 6 months to stay inspired and stay focused since I've been retired. So like fixing flipping houses, that's easy to me. So I fixed and flipped a house last year, and then I didn't buy a house for, I don't know, a couple months. I had the money. My wife goes, "What's up?" She goes, "You gonna fix and flip any houses?" I had a house under contract the next day.
There you go.
And so it was almost like fixing and flipping was almost like too easy, where I got bored, to be honest. I know that sounds foolish, but it's the truth. If you've been in construction as long as I am, it's not as big a deal as what people make it out to be. A floor is a floor. A countertop's a countertop. You have to collaborate and get all the details, but it's just not, it's not that big a deal. So I don't know, maybe fix and flip is not a challenge. Maybe getting the revenue to buy and hold, whether it's my money or someone else's money, maybe that's going to be my challenge for this year. I know I can close 4 doors on my own financially, but would I be willing to do it with somebody else? So maybe I need to reach out and build a group of people that, like you said, maybe they only have $10,000 a piece. 5 people have 50 grand.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, build the capital, and obviously you'd have to have an LLC or a partnership, and but if 5 guys had 10 grand a piece and they had 50 grand, you can go to Cleveland and buy a duplex right now for $65,000. You could put $50,000, and have a $15,000 mortgage and collect $1,700 a month in rents, and after expenses, maybe you'd have $1,200. A $1,200 return on $50,000 investment. That's a pretty good return, even if you split it 5 ways.
So I have one final question. Life is, fill it up.
Life is what you make of it.
That's so true.
It's absolutely what you make of it. And if you ever have a life-changing event, that will actually become even more important to you than you and I just talking about it. And so a buddy of mine in Boise, Idaho. He posted this today. I'm going to read it to you. Because I think this really hit the nail on the head. Instead of focusing, there's so much bad stuff going on in the world. I know you're going to edit this, so
No. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Instead of focusing on negative shit, focus on what you want to do. Spend time thinking about solutions. Set a clear mental image of what you want and make it clear and distinct in your mind. And, I've read that a couple times today. We're strong, powerful, loving human beings, or we can be, but all the stuff that's going on in the world, we focus on COVID, or maybe we're not going to get our rents, or whatever it is, the negative. And so the one thing that I think I've changed over the last 5 or 6 years is I want to get up and focus on the good stuff. Some mornings there isn't a bunch of good stuff. But if there's one or two, focus on the stuff that's good and the positive.
Sense, right? There is. If it's not controlled or
Absolutely.
nothing in you, there is no point in thinking or putting a lot of time in that. It makes no sense.
Right. And you go through here one time. I'm pretty grounded. You go through here one time. Do you have to end up being Gary Vee or Grant Cardone? No, you don't. You have to be happy and you have to be good with what's inside of you. And if you get up and you think about what's positive every day and you focus on the positive, you are going to have that inside of you. You're going to have that feeling.
Passionate and
absolutely
thankful of what you have and what you are today. Right.
We are as a country, we focus on the negative and we're somewhat we're not thankful. And my wife and I travel every year, and we travel. I've got a couple timeshares in Cabo San Lucas, Mexico. Well, when COVID hit, what do you think that did to them? It shut them down. They don't get any government assistance. Trump didn't send them a check for $1,200. Their government didn't do anything. They have zero income.
So many countries in the world, yeah, definitely.
At Cabo San, and we have friends that are down there. Our best friends, some of our best friends that we've acquired relationships over the last 10 or 15 years are jewelers. They haven't sold one piece of jewelry since March 15. They get to open this week. They are so excited. They had employees they had to send home with no assistance. They couldn't pay them. They make a meager existence. And so I think as humans and Americans, we need to be more thankful. It's a big, and I wish I was even better at it than what I am. I'm pretty good at it, but I wish I was better at it.
No, that makes a lot of difference in everyday life. No matter what you are, how you are, it makes a lot of difference.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. I really, really enjoyed talking to you, Don, and I learned a lot from your experiences and everything. Hope my audience and everybody who is watching, they are going to learn a lot too. It's not real estate, but we talk a lot of things.